Yeah, Emma sent me a message and she said, please don't do a pitch, which is good because I had no intentions on doing a pitch. I think a lot of people in the room know Vincere or know of us or whatever. So this isn't about me trying to peddle anything. I thought, because Emma was saying, let's talk about tech stacks. So obviously I am coming at this from a CRM-esque perspective. But I thought it might be a nice opportunity to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane and just see how far we've all come in the world of RegTech. I think, recruitment was at one point seen as maybe lagging in its ability to, or its willingness to adopt new technologies. And I think actually recruiters are now driving the way. And if you look at LinkedIn, they're actually highlighting new technologies to other industries. So I think that's really exciting. So I'm going to take you through the evolution of the RegTech stack, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I haven't timed it, so feel free to start chucking stuff at me if I talk too long. And then we'll kind of break that down into your kind of front, middle, and back office, so that there's something for everybody in the room, regardless of what your business does. And then, as Dean alluded to, we'll talk about how you can then augment your core systems with some cool stuff that is out there on the market. So hopefully that is going to give us a nice session. Okay, so a kind of badge of honour is if you remember when this was recruitment, and I do. So I probably should have introduced myself a little bit better. Prior to being in the world of RegTech, I did about 13 years as a recruiter. So I started life as a temp recruiter. And did everything, including exec search. And this was my life. I put things on the system, after the event. I worked from business cards, yellow pages, whatever it might be. So a lot of people in the room will remember these days, and very much fun that they were. And then we found, this was around when I was at Reed. We discovered the CRM and the ATS, but they were still very separate. You do your sales on one thing and you do your placements on something probably completely different, or certainly a different area of the system. Most systems were on server. We started to look at things like VMS systems, and then we kind of went through to this thing called the cloud. I don't know if anyone remembers microsites that we used to build and charge for customers, but all this started to show its head, and this is where we're kind of at now. So with a lot of technologies now, in order for you to be able to build that tech stack, as we keep saying, you need to reach out to that ecosystem. So there's lots of bits of cool tech knocking around, all do different things, and there's a temptation to buy it all and to try and bolt it together into what Eloise, who for you that remember one of our founders, referred to as a Frankenstack. So it's loads of tech that's kind of self-sustaining, has all got a bit out of control. An open API is something that when I was in recruitment, I had no idea. Sounded like something you'd go to the doctors for, but it's it's something that you hear a lot now. Is have you got an open API? Can we build on your API? Mobile app. Most systems will now come with definitely a good mobile experience. Good ones should have the mobile app as well, and that should be for your recruiters and for your candidates. We've now managed to join up your CRM and your ATS. And one of my favourite sayings in tech is that everything is everything. So whenever you do an action or press a button, you shouldn't just be actioning that part of what you can see on your screen. There should be an effect of that all over your system. Lots of things should be happening all at the same time. Things like live chat, portals, we need to start engaging clients and candidates through portals, and looking at ways that you can affect your bottom line with that, because then you're adding additional value to your clients by giving them a system to use, a portal to use, that they don't have to go and invest in software. We're now thinking about integrated timesheet solutions. So again, something that was like way off the radar a few years ago now should be integrated into your system. And integrated telephony as well. I think I was talking to just earlier on, and we were saying, you would at one point do your call and then you'd have to go into your system and log your call, and you'd probably get busy in between and completely forget to do it. So integrated telephony, I think, has been something that's been a bit of a game changer for recruiters now. And then we look at the future. And this is, open for discussion. If people don't think this is the way that RecTech is going, then I'm always open to that. But I think the way that we're seeing the demand for technology is to integrate that front, middle and back office, so that end-to-end solution. To be honest, it's almost, I feel, working in a tech company, and I'm sure other CRM providers in the room will feel this as well. It's almost like a kind of race to the finish. It's who's going to get there first, who's going to build the holy grail of all recruitment technology, which is your front, your middle and your back office all talking to each other. And I think that someone will get there, and I think that is definitely the future. Integrated with your websites, payrolls, and one of the key advantages for that is something that actually isn't in the tech, it's in the support. So just to have one throat to choke, one support call, it's usually mine, as you all know. One support call, one invoice makes it super, super easy for you to budget for you to manage, and then constantly innovating, getting those teams aligned, getting your finance team talking to recruiters, understanding what each other do. And then automation is standard. I think Dean touched on the whole ChatGPT thing, and automation was seen as something that the best recruiters, because they could afford to spend more money, they could layer on top. I think that's where we are now, where you can layer that automation on top of your CRM to make those admin heavy duties a little less admin heavy. I think that's just going to be the future, will be that those automations are just built in your system. So if somebody hasn't been contacted for 6 months, they automatically go into a list, they automatically go into an email campaign. You shouldn't really be looking at building that on top. So that's a little bit of an overview of kind of where we've been and where we're going. So this is what I think that RecOS will look like. And this is where I think some businesses get it wrong. They start with the cool stuff. They want the crazy shit, they want the nice automation tools, and actually what you need is to start with your platform. And your platform should give you your CRM and your ATS. So I'm quite privileged that I work for what I see as the backbone of all recruitment technology, which is your CRM, and you should always, always start there. Within that platform, you should have some expectations. You shouldn't necessarily have to go out to third parties for things like analytics, for instance. I mentioned automation, things like portals. They should all come as standard as part of your recruitment operating system. I've got Mr. Frankenstein in the corner just to remind you that we're trying to get away from the whole Frankenstack thing. So we'll start with the platform. And then once you've got that in place and you've got that adoption, which is the most important thing. We don't want to be investing in systems that no one uses. Then you can think about how do you bring that together for your front office, so your recruiters, your middle office, so the guys doing the temp stuff, the contract stuff, and then also your back office as well. And you can layer in things like screening in there and your website product as well. So you can think about then kind of extending that RecOS into those type of functions. And at that point, that's when you go, right, okay, this is my RecOS. This is what my recruiters are using. They love it. They can't live without it. Let's get them some treats and let's make their life a lot easier, and let's see how much more productivity we can get if we just take away some of that heavy lifting. So that's when you think about your additional bits of technology. Now, I think sometimes we have a bit of a reputation for not having the biggest marketplace. Whereas, you've got the bullhorns who are built on their marketplace Salesforce. They've got this huge ecosystem. It's very deliberate. We are adamant that to integrate with another piece of technology, that you should be able to use that technology to augment your Vincere experience, to enhance it, to make it better within the system. We don't want to be having one login for Vincere and one login for a marketplace partner. Where possible, we should be looking for two-way syncs, not just data pushes. You could build that yourself. We could give you the API documentation. You can hire a developer for a day, and they could build a one-way push from Vincere into anything that you want. What we should be looking for is two-way syncs where those technologies become a mirror image of each other. So to answer Dean's kind of query, what does that future tech stack look like? It looks like a really strong platform, which is brought together the front, middle and back office and then layered across some of the stuff that makes everybody's life a bit easier and therefore takes away some admin, allowing your people to be more productive or to reduce headcount in certain areas where the tech can take over, and only you know what those duties are that you don't necessarily need a person to do. What would I expect for the 3 sections in terms of what you can expect from your tech? So this is a list of front office things that I don't think people always know exist, and they can apply to all businesses. So temp, perm, contract, whatever. So your CRM should already, in the year 2023, have built-in automation. We shouldn't be needing a Vincere Automate or a Sense or a Hairfish to be able to pick up the ball when people drop it in sales. So as you're making calls, as you're adding people to lists, the system should be doing some of that reading for you and making assumptions for you. So you should have built-in automation there. Some sort of LinkedIn integration. Ours is very basic. It's a parsing tool. It lifts publicly available information from LinkedIn and brings it into Vincere. We can't do any more than that because LinkedIn will probably shut us down if we start to scrape stuff. But you should be able to have something that reduces the admin. If you find a candidate or a potential contact on LinkedIn, you shouldn't be double keying and typing their details into your system. Search. We know that most candidates exist in your database, and yet we so often will pay for external sources to find them for us. We need to be having great search built into the system. Some way of digitally submitting candidate shortlists. Your clients are moving on as well in their tech. They're getting away from paper. Don't be sending them, paper CVs or PDFs. You need some way of digitalising your candidate submission process to be able to show yourself as innovative. Mobile app I've mentioned, and some sort of website integration so you can very, very easily post jobs and receive applications. For the temp guys in the room, middle office guys, your timesheet system should be online or app-based. It should be at least optimised for mobile. We're seeing increasing door clock usage. So certainly in the manufacturing, the industrial, construction, we're seeing great adoption for app signing, QR codes, 4-digit passcodes, things like that. And as again, mobile app is really important and something that for contractors, it makes it super easy for them to track their time. And then we all know happy finance team, happy life. So we've got to build something for them as well. They need to be able to see their analytics natively. We like to be able to to create retained invoices, so you're not placing this fake retained candidate again and again and again to manage retainers. You should be able to invoice from your system, absolutely. Big believer in that. And you should be able to build those rate cards as well, so you're not having to do any alterations once that timesheet comes in. Your system should be knowing what time of day it is and applying the rates. And then for you guys in this room, all of that is great, and you have happy recruiters and hopefully have more retention because you've given your recruiters some cool tech to use. But you guys need to be able to see what's going on in your business, particularly those have multi-offices, multi-countries. And you don't want to be logging into the core system to kind of drill down into what activity is happening and then trying to pull together some sort of forecast. And I actually think it's madness that you would pay for an additional piece of technology to dig into the system and get key data out. I think it should be native. So I call it the mothership. It's your intelligence dashboards in our case, but whatever system you're using, you should be demanding real-time analytics, which can give you that management information. It might be quite high level, quite salesy stuff. You want up sales type TV dashboards, etc. It might be more operational, so looking at your data integrity and identifying the people who don't have any data integrity. It might be more financial, so looking at your forecast, looking at your billings, looking at your invoices, or your GDPR status. But you absolutely should be demanding real-time analytics out of your system. And I think that is it. So I will take some questions if there are any, if we've got some time.
I've got a few things just to mention, and a few questions if I may. I was the guy at S3 when we went to build contract business out, changed CRM 3 times in 5 years. So my absolute advice to you is do not be wed to your CRM. Right? Your CRM facilitates a process that if things change and it moves, then you should be able to adapt to the marketplace and as your CRM gets better. So I'm a really big fan. Right? I'm obviously a massive fan of the 3 businesses, the CRMs that we got within the RDLC are all major players in their own rights. So they're all built on robust systems and they will have integration with any of the apps out there. One of the things to mention that I totally agree that wouldn't it be great if your CRM did absolutely everything as well as it could. The truth of the fact is that it just doesn't. And the reason why things like the analytics tools survive is that if that's their own business, so if it's a Cube or a one-up, the investment that goes into that one function, that one feature, is bigger than a Vincere or a Mercury or a talent would ever come into, so Target Recruit, sorry, would ever put into that one area. So currently they're actually ahead of the curve. So I would love for a day to that be the case, that what you offer internally is better than, but it's better than nothing. I wouldn't always say it's better. I'm not going to bang on to this, but you mentioned QR codes, and I thought that's the first time someone mentioned a QR code as part of middle office automation. Tell me, what's that?
Well, on your first point, you're absolutely right. And, our native analytics, if you've got a mid to small agency, you wouldn't need to layer anything on unless you wanted the cool stuff, the skiing trips with skiers whooshing across the page, which OneUp can do all that kind of stuff for you. So, but I absolutely agree. Where there's something that you really want to double down on, these guys are doing a fantastic job, and that's why we build integrations. So we'll never close our door to cool tech that want to integrate with us. So absolutely. QR codes. So within our worker mobile app, if you had a client who say they had multiple contractors, if you want to supply them with an iPad, you can set that up for them, and when those workers come in, they can scan a code on the iPad that will clock whatever time it is, and that will clock them in for work, and then they scan it again on the way out. So at the end of the week, they'll look at the mobile app, and all of the times will have been captured via the QR code, and then they can simply submit their timesheet. So we're using QR codes as a door clock.
I think it's really sexy.
Do you want to see it? Do you want me to do you a demo? I'm not doing it now. I'll do you a demo, and if anyone wants to see it, if you're interested, I can always do you one of my little Loom videos and pop it in the WhatsApp group if that would help. Yeah.
In terms of front, middle and back and working, my question was going to be, which I think probably is similar to Gary's, is it a fact no one's ever really going to do it? Because there's always going to be someone who's constantly, because you've got to stay up to speed with the latest movements in pay and bill. Let's say we go CBDC, you end up on blockchain. There's so many changes, but there's always going to be someone who's concentrating on that. Do you think that it's one of those things that maybe CRM should say, we're never going to get that we're never going to hit that perfect virtual cycle of system, that we just say, well, actually, we're quite happy to be a marketplace and integrate and work on that basis and have partners rather than try and own the whole thing?
I think that's where we got to a year ago. I think Bernie decided that was it, is build everything that we're gonna bother with, because we work in, I think, 27 countries. So you've got to build payroll 27 times, and then it changes, and some AWR gets scrapped or something else comes in or whatever. So it is really complex. And I think Access are already doing it with Access Pay and Bill. So certainly in the UK and in Australia, where they already operate in pay and bill, they've now got an ambition to be able to kind of bolt that onto the end of what we already do. We already go up to gross pretty well with the time temp system, but they've made another big acquisition in Fast Track 360. And then so all thoughts at the moment around the integration of Fast Track 360, that's what pretty much all of our developers are working on, to be able to roll out the payroll element of the system. And for any time temp users in the room, don't think we're killing time temp. You will have the choice as to whether you want to push timesheet data into Fast Track 360 to be able to run your payroll, or whether you wanted to decouple time temp and put fast track in as your timesheet solution. So we'll give you the option. We're now looking as well at having fast track do the time interpretation in time temp so that we can beef that up a little bit as well. So I suppose to answer your question, I have it on good authority that we're going to have the end-to-end, but there will always be challenges. And you know, I've been promised an end-to-end system now for the last 3 years. I will believe it when I see it. But I think that now that we've got the Fast Track 360, it will. I mean, that is just an integration, though. It just so happens it's owned by the same group.
I remember reading years ago that Microsoft, all the money that they put into research and development, they got nothing back. It was always someone they acquired, an interloper, a lever, somebody who concentrated. Because when you're in the box, you think in the box about how it's going to fit with the things that are already in the box, not about something that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, I mean, the Fast Track hasn't got any UK customers just yet. So, but when you look at what they're doing in ANZ, it's pretty exciting. If they can replicate that in the UK, I'll be delighted. Because we've kissed quite a few payroll frogs. We've nearly integrated with quite a few, and then it's never really worked out. So I'm hoping that this is our prince.
Can I ask just one other question that's obviously Vincere specific, but I don't know what the other CRMs are doing about this. But obviously that a lot of people talk about the cost of storage now.
It is an access thing, so just to be completely transparent, there is limits on data storage for Access CRM customers, for RDB customers and for Microdeck customers. So the idea was that actually now that we are an Access CRM, that we would have the same limitations, but it's there's a couple of cohorts of customers that I just don't think, you know, at the end of the day, we wouldn't have seen the growth that we've seen in the last 5 years without certain groups of people, some of which may be in this room, so we need to recognise that. So I think before the acquisition, our customer success managers were also account managers and they were also frontline support. It was all kind of lumped into CS. And so the view is now that we will have dedicated customer success managers, we will have technical support people, and we will have account managers. So in brief, the account managers are there to sell you more stuff. The technical people are literally, you know, something's broken. Your customer success manager should be that person that can say, right, okay, you're not using 80% of your system, let's see what else you could be doing. So it's not a support role, it's very much getting the best out of your investment. If you reach out to me, I'll put you in touch with the CSM. It's something that you guys might have to ask for. Once it's rolled out, obviously anybody new coming on board they'll be introduced to their CSM. They won't be dedicated unless you pay for someone dedicated. You'll have a pool of people. But if you guys ask for it, then we'll make sure that it happens. But I get crazy when, you know, that's exactly what CS should be. It should be, look, we've heat mapped your system. Do you know you haven't used this additional module that you've bought for the last 6 months? You know, what could you achieve if you did? So, just reach out. And there is also the feedback on here as well. So when you guys go into your login page, you can reach out to support here, but if you go into the roadmap, there's a place to share feedback and what have you in the first page, but we're also now publishing the roadmap for all different parts of the system. So we'll show you what's been released and we'll show you what is in the pipeline for the ATS CRM, for temp, for your analytics, for your portals, for the additional modules such as Vimeo. And these are the things that customers have asked for, which we've rolled out, just so you can see if your idea is on there. And then every time we make a release, which is quite often, we'll add the release notes in here as well. So I think sometimes I drop the ball, but I should add these onto the WhatsApp group every time they come out. If you've missed one, then you can always go in through your login page and just look at the release notes and what's new. And then if you need any support with actually training your guys on the new features that come out, that's when you need to really reach out, because we need people using it. And then if there's anything going on with integrations, that's on there as well. But when you go into this portal, you can actually submit ideas, and you know, if you've got anything that you'd like to see us do, then tell us.
Good question. I don't know if you have this question or if it's maybe for other people to answer, but I find that it's just getting more and more expensive, I think. So how do you then put that back into your business in the sense that do you have higher expectations of people, or do you get that question?
Yeah, I think true SaaS needs to be, there needs to be a really kind of clear per user price model. It's not like, when I set up on my own in 2010, I think I paid like 15 grand for a website or something like that. So it should be more cost effective now. Yes, the money does go back into development. So we increase our dev spend 40% year on year. Every single year, and there's, we have a huge development team compared to some of our competitors. They are in Vietnam, so obviously they're a bit less pricey than UK developers. But I think we have, on last count, over 40 developers, whereas often you find it's more in the teens. So most of our profits and what have you do go into that. You will see price increases. Unfortunately, we had 5 years, I think, at Vincere without putting our prices up. We're not in that world anymore. We're part of a bigger business, and it's not going to happen. Although, again, this group does have some immunity from that as well. I don't want Gary ringing me up if you don't get price increases. So I'd rather have a difficult conversation with some big shot at Access than I would with him. Yeah, chuck some at me. Thanks, guys.